哎，像不像回家呀？
这不像回家啊。
弟儿，今儿就送你回家，你看咋着？对，骗你弄啥了？你看。
This is a film that was banned in China, and it unflinchingly portrays the darker aspects of human nature. Welcome to Oriental Frames. Thank you for your watching and subscribing. In the last century, there were many illegal coal mines, and some miners resorted to sinister schemes to make quick money. These two individuals deceived their own brother into entering the mine, leading him to a dim and deserted spot. Song Tang, who appeared benign on the surface, then wielded a sledgehammer to brutally end their brother's life. Subsequently, they dragged his lifeless body to a perilous, hidden corner, staging the murder to look like a mining accident. Old Tang, with his somewhat crude performance, hurried out of the mine, embracing profound sorrow and wailing. Song Tang, too, approached the mine owner, feigning distress. At this moment, the mine owner, who was most eager to avoid escalating the situation, first sought to calm the two down. He then ordered his subordinates to guard the exit to prevent any leaks.
走吧！我说你别急，咱对，不是你弟是不是？他不让出去，你知道不知道啊？还有人搁门口站住。
不要气了他啊！不是说不叫人家人来，你知道吧？你的心情我理解，我都理解。
不是你跟他说，你跟他说吧，
你说。
Slowly but surely, the life they took became the bargaining chip in their negotiations. Old Tang, with a somewhat impatient demeanor, insisted on not accepting any compensation. Therefore, the mine owner had no choice but to call upon Song Tang, saying he could offer a maximum of 20,000 yuan and asked him to persuade Old Tang. However, Old Tang remained hidden and refused to show himself. Only Song Tang acted as the intermediary, shuttling back and forth with messages. As the mine owner's feigned distress continued, Song Tang sensed the moment was ripe and proposed a fixed price of 40,000 yuan, not a cent less. Their bold demands didn't sit well with the mine owner's subordinates, who found their arrogant demeanor intolerable.
考察，还跟罗泽镇吗？不行了，给他们办了。
不想活了，不能人间。
不行了，跟公安局的刘局长跟赵局长打招呼。
拉倒吧。这回没来啊，吃喝还得拿，你摸个10万20万根本打不住，根本知不知道？是。不到万一，别，请大家啊！是。
Subsequently, the mine owner returned with 30,000 yuan and urged the two to find a compromise, so they could put the matter behind them. Old Tang, initially dissatisfied with the amount, voiced his complaints. In response, the mine owner directly pulled out a dagger and said they might as well use his fingers as collateral. Fearing they might not even get the 30,000 yuan if they pushed further, the two had no choice but to accept the money. After they signed the reconciliation agreement, the mine owner's attitude immediately changed. So, with 30,000 yuan in hand, the two of them left the place. A human life, worth just $2,000 or $3,000, much like the wild weeds growing in the desolate wasteland, remained unknown to all. They casually tossed the urn containing their brother's ashes into the trash heap and flushed his remains down the toilet. They burned the fake IDs, evenly splitting the ill-gotten gains, leaving no trace behind. Their brother was just an unsuspecting person they had lured off the street. They had used this scheme to harm many others, obtaining countless compensation payments. Each time they succeeded, they would send most of the money back to their hometown. Then, Song Tang would call home, instructing his wife to ensure their son, about to enter college, studied diligently. He didn't want the next generation to follow in his footsteps. Afterward, the two of them would visit entertainment establishments to enjoy themselves for a few days. When the money ran low, they would return to the train station, seeking their next target and executing their old tricks. Suddenly, a naive and innocent young man appeared, catching Old Tang's interest immediately. He thought this young fellow seemed gullible. So, he asked if the young man wanted to earn some money. The young man, known as Feng Ming, enthusiastically took the bait.
咋不上学了呀？
没钱交学费。
那妈，那爹咋鸡巴当了呀？是学费都不给你交了？
这不管俺爹，俺爹出去打工挣钱去了，都半年没有回家了。
However, when Song Tang realized that Feng Ming was about the same age as his own son, he started to feel a sense of guilt. It was rumored that Feng Ming's last name was Yuan, and this made Song Tang uneasy because the last person they had caused harm to had the surname Yuan. Song Tang began to suspect that Feng Ming might be the son of that Yuan surname laborer.
你要是没钱，恁孩还不照样出来打工？你可怜他，谁可怜你嘞？
反正我觉得
不中，你自个儿找吧。
In the end, Song Tang succumbed to the temptation of money. His remaining shreds of conscience were easily blown away like smoke by the wind. they took a photograph with Feng Ming and then arranged a fake identity for him as a cover. This was also to ensure they could secure compensation more easily. They instructed Feng Ming to be careful with his relations, emphasizing that no matter who asked, he should claim to be their nephew. This way, he could join them in the coal mine and earn substantial money. Feng Ming, with the sole objective of making money, had no qualms and promised not to reveal the truth. Subsequently, the two of them brought him to an underground coal mine. This place was remote and difficult to find, and the pervasive decay signaled danger, but that's exactly what made it an ideal location for their schemes. As soon as they entered, the mine owner issued a warning, emphasizing the potential for fatal accidents underground, making it impossible to predict. He advised those who were afraid to leave immediately. Of course, they chose to stay.
可是这2天算施工，先不发钱。
老板，怎么能行啊
这什么这？干就干，不干就给我滚蛋！中国什么都缺，就是不缺人。
The experienced duo quickly intervened to smooth things over for Feng Ming. Soon after, they were taken to the dormitory, officially marking their entry into this underground coal mine. However, Feng Ming had no money to purchase a safety helmet. Out of kindness, Song Jin loaned him the money and explained that wearing the helmet was essential while working in the mine, as it was a matter of life and death. Shortly after, Feng Ming experienced his first descent into the mine. Having never done this kind of work, even the sound of falling coal chunks terrified him. Song Jin wanted him to consider giving up and returning home. But Old Tang, playing the role of a good Samaritan, comforted Feng Ming, assuring him that he would quickly adapt to the environment. To support his family, Feng Ming chose to persevere, yet he never abandoned his books, hoping that one day he would return to school. One day, Song Jin stumbled upon a family portrait, and suddenly a heavy weight settled in his chest. It turned out that in the photograph, Feng Ming's father was the same laborer they had harmed previously. Filled with guilt, he sought out Old Tang, confessing his concerns and the truth about the family's past.
你是要给他弄死了，这他家的绝后了呀！
切，你操那球心干啥？绝不绝后跟咱来啥关系？
Seeing that Song Jin had a hint of remorse, Old Tang decided to act quickly, fearing that things might take a different turn. He planned to eliminate Feng Ming and Song Jin when they went down into the mine the next day. He argued that the cunning mine owner here necessitated more time for them to put on a convincing act. This tactic allowed Feng Ming some additional time. On this day, the three of them strolled through the market, and when they passed a beggar child, Feng Ming approached Song Jin. He borrowed some money and gave it to the child, who had managed to enter high school but couldn't afford to continue his education.
真高上高中啊！
Feng Ming didn't want him to follow the same path of hardship. Song Jin also took out some money to give to the child, as the boy reminded him of his own son. However, Old Tang remained unconvinced, believing that these people were all deceitful actors. The three individuals' personalities began to manifest. Feng Ming was kind-hearted and pure, always willing to help with the work, and he often shared his meals with his uncles out of filial respect. Yet, he had also reached the age of youthful restlessness, often peering at the tattered newspapers on the wall and yearning for the alluring ladies in the calendar hanging behind. In reality, he didn't even dare to make eye contact with the women at the worksite, a situation closely observed by Song Jin. After a few days, Old Tang felt the timing was right, and Song Jin once again came up with various excuses to delay their actions.
我觉得方面这行活人大连基本女的都没碰过，死路可亏。
这还不容易，找个女的给他开户不就中了？
So, the next day, the two of them brought Feng Ming to a brothel, disguised as a hair salon. After negotiating the price with the madam, they selected one of the top ladies for Feng Ming.
你看啊，你这单是不是干活没劲儿啊？叫那个姐姐给你按摩按摩，你知道了吧？都有劲儿，都承认了。
二叔，我不用按摩，我打俩就中了。
他妈，给你看病，快去！
去这上去吧。
Feng Ming was taken upstairs alone, but after only a short while, he came running back downstairs. He was too shy and couldn't bring himself to engage in such activities. So, they had no choice but to provide someone to assist him. Song Jin emphasized that the quality of service had to be top-notch since Feng Ming was paying for it. Afterward, Feng Ming had no option but to comply. After a period of indescribable events, Feng Ming walked out of the establishment without looking back. He felt furious with the two men for making him out to be the bad person, and gradually, his anger turned into a sense of grievance.
你知道不知道？这男的都在经理的事儿，你经理啊，你不是都承认了吗？是不是？
In a solemn tone, Song Jin addressed him. After returning to the dormitory in the coal mine, he angrily used newspapers to cover the images of those blonde ladies. However, when he was alone, he couldn't help but repeatedly reminisce about the scenes, and that mocking expression was far from being concealed. As the days passed, old Tang could no longer restrain his determination to take action.
为啥？
This time, Song Jin couldn't prevent him.
盯个臭用。
And so, Song Jin managed to intervene once more.
我跟你说，做事讲规矩中的。松行饭吃了没有？还咋跟他喝松行酒了呀？
小鸡巴喝啥酒了？
那鸡巴喝不喝是他的事儿，让不让喝是咱的事儿，知道不知道？那鸡巴枪毙人还得让人家吃喝了不是？
中，算你会说。
One day, the mine paid their monthly wages, and Feng Ming wanted to send some money back to his hometown. But when he arrived at the bank, he encountered the same lady who had served him that day. Without her makeup, she appeared more elegant and approached Feng Ming with a warm greeting. She patted his shoulder before slowly walking away, leaving a lasting impression on the young Feng Ming. Afterward, the two of them took Feng Ming to the marketplace, but he got lost while shopping. They searched frantically and, when they finally found him, Song Jin harshly scolded her. However, when they learned that Feng Ming had bought them chicken, Song Jin fell silent. A wave of warmth similar to the love he felt for his own son washed over him. At the farewell dinner that evening, Song Jin wanted to share a drink with Feng Ming, taking out a bottle of good wine. However, he was stopped by the elder lady beside them.
矿水不让你对喝蜂蜜哈，我替他喝。
你替他喝能让俺俩喝酒了呢？
This simple remark weighed heavily on his heart because the next day was the day they had planned to act. Inside the coal mine, the two of them first secretly acquired explosives. Unexpectedly, a safety officer came on patrol, and old Tang, without hesitation, knocked him unconscious, intending to eliminate him as well to avoid any loose ends.
你这是弄啥了？你搬了他，你能拿出钱？
先当我菜了，我就收拾他。
Song Jin suddenly felt a trace of dissatisfaction with his accomplice but had no choice but to deal with the body together first. Then the two of them called Feng Ming over and shared the secret code they used before each operation.
小明，想家了吧？
想，咋不想？
那让恁二叔送你回家吧。
现在不行，我钱还没挣够呢。
However, Song Jin continued to delay taking action. There was no choice, Song Jin had become the one blocking his path to wealth. Even though old Tang was his partner, he struck him with a hammer. Then, he slowly approached the vulnerable Feng Ming. Surprisingly, the previously knocked out Song Jin stood up and, using a pickaxe, launched a surprise attack on old Tang. Terrified, Feng Ming fled without looking back. Song Jin, on the other hand, once again lost consciousness. Due to Feng Ming's panic, he couldn't utter a word.
认得出来没有？
The unknowing detonation officer blew his whistle and then pressed the detonation button. Feng Ming had run to the outside of the mine where the sunlight touched. The mine owner gave Feng Ming the compensation, which amounted to 30,000 yuan per person. However, Feng Ming refused to accept it, claiming that those two individuals were not his real uncles. Nevertheless, his innocence led the mine owner to believe that he was trying to negotiate a higher price. Eventually, with the persuasion of his fellow female co-worker, Feng Ming accepted the compensation. At the crematorium, Feng Ming intended to bid them farewell. As the bodies were pushed into the furnace, it was ironic that old Tang was wearing shoes he had taken from the previous victim, Feng Ming's father. Feng Ming looked up at the towering chimney, with smoke billowing into the air. This movie is an adaptation of a real-life fraudulent mining disaster case, exposing the brutal reality that is dark and boundless. However, the real world behind the story is even more harrowing. What is goodness, and what is evil? Are the women selling their bodies underground seen as just that by outsiders? But they send all the money they earn back home, altering their appearance from the hair salon, yet remaining plain and simple, like the girl next door. Where there is light, there is also darkness. No voiceover can replicate the charm of the original film. A great movie deserves to be experienced in its full plot. Thank you for your watching and subscribing.